Thanks, Chairman. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I guess I'm the straight guy in this presentation this afternoon. The Minister mentioned fiscal responsibility, and I'm part of that process. And the numbers I'm going to quote to you this afternoon are from our financial statements for those non-accountants. Annually, we prepare financial statements like most other organisations. That's a profit and loss statement, our income and our expenditure, and our balance sheet, which really shows us what our assets are and what our liabilities are. As the Chairman mentioned, this is our first full year of operation. Last year when I presented this report, we were talking about a 6-month result. So first full year of operation for this district. So I'll just run through the profit and loss statement very briefly, and just to give you a sense of scale of the district you belong to, or the district that serves your needs. Total operating expenses, the total expenses of running this organisation, this district, all of the facilities you have in it, all of the services in it are all accumulated in this number. And that's $1.336 billion. Now, we may not be the largest local health district, we're certainly in the top 5. It just gives you a sense of scale of the organisation that the management team and the board are having to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Just looking at some of the key expenses to give you a sense of scale and dimension. The largest part of the expenditure is, as you probably expect, is our skilled team of professional staff. Have about 8,300, 8,400 full-time equivalent staff. Total expenditure is $851 million. Visiting medical officers also lend us their valuable time in providing the services to our stakeholders. The expenditure on VMOs for last year was $64 million. Now, of course, we need drugs and medical supplies to run a business like this. Drugs, medical and surgical supplies, $132 million last year. Depreciation of our assets, that was $41 million. And for non-accountants out there, depreciation is really the wearing out of the assets. We're sitting in one of our assets now. We all realise through our personal experience that most assets don't last forever. They're very expensive items to buy, very expensive to maintain, but they don't last forever, and we need to build new ones. So we accountants try to measure the cost of them wearing out and being consumed. And as our asset base increases in this district, that figure is going to increase. So the cost of depreciation last year was $41 million. Now, you'll be pleased to know that offsetting the expenditure, we have revenue. And I should mention that we start off with expenditure because we are not for profit. We're not in business to make a profit. We're in business to be fiscally responsible, to balance the operating costs with revenues. And being an in-the-budget sector organisation, not surprisingly, most of our revenue comes from the state government through the Ministry of Health allocations. And last year that was $1.16 billion, consisting of recurring revenue, $1,084 million, which is for the day-to-day operations. And we also had capital allocations of $77 million. So very important in contributing to the asset base of the district. Patient fees, all important private patient fees that we get from the health funds. We need to develop this number even further in the future. That was $44 million. Department of Veteran Affairs, that's contributions we get for treating veterans from the federal government, $22 million. And similarly, a subsidisation for high-cost drugs, that was $22 million as well. So I haven't certainly covered all the detail, and you're probably glad I haven't done that. But the net of those two is, fortunately, an operating surplus for the year. So, Minister, don't get too excited, but it's $19.7 million, which is a great result when you consider the challenging year that the district's been through, and the large number of facilities and operations we have. And amazingly, that was within 100,000 of our original budget. So I think it underscores the efforts that the staff have made, the management team, over the last very, very challenging year in pulling this all together. And I might add there was quite a bit of help there from the ministry as we transitioned finally from the old single district into our separate district. So totally separated now and up on our own 2 feet. Having a quick look at the balance sheet, this is the assets and the liabilities, all those fun things. And looking at our assets, property, plant and equipment, these are the ones we can normally associate with. The land, the buildings, the furniture and fittings, that very expensive medical equipment that we all rely upon if we need medical treatment. Total value of that is $1,055 million. Significant investment in assets in this organisation. The Chair mentioned that we're adding assets all the time, and last year when I reported, we had the new Liverpool facility that was opened, and that added a significant value to our asset base. Last year, again, Liverpool, 53 million for the cancer therapy centre that was opened. And next year, you won't see the finished product, but the new facility over here, some of the costs of that will be capitalised, and in 3 years' time we'll be announcing that. So that asset base, as I said before, will continue to grow, and it's important to provide our services. So if we look at all of our assets, our cash at the bank, our receivables, the hard assets that I've just talked about, 1.159 billion, so fairly large organisation. We do have liabilities. We do owe creditors money. We do owe other districts money for shared services we have. And of course, we have to provide for the long service leave and the annual leave of the staff that I mentioned. So when we net the two off, our organisation is worth $893 million at this stage. So for academic purposes, just bear that in mind. That's the organisation that your staff and your management is operating on your behalf. Now, just very briefly, I might explain the audit process, the financial statements. The financial statements are prepared by the finance team, and the finance team, I might add, has been under a lot of pressure to pull those together last year, and I'd like to acknowledge the efforts they put in to get them done on time and to a very high standard. The finance team also oversaw the finalisation of the formation of this district. There were a few accounting adjustments that needed to be made, a few budget adjustments, and they were all made, and so I'd like to acknowledge the efforts they've made. The financial statements are then produced. They're reviewed by the Audit Committee, which is appointed by the Board, and that provides an independent oversight of the process. The Board actually does then review the financial statements and approve them prior to them going to audit. The Audit Office of New South Wales performs an independent audit, and they have a completely independent function and form their opinion on the accounts. And I'm pleased to say that we received an unmodified audit report, which in layman's language means it's a clean audit report or a good audit report. It's good news. So we had no qualification, and that is a pleasing result. Just before I close, I'd like to also acknowledge the Finance Committee. Phil mentioned that I chair that committee. I share the committee with two other board directors, Carolyn Burlew and Professor Neil Merritt. But we also have someone else keeping us honest on that committee. We have a community representative, and I see she's in the audience here, Nina Berry, a fellow accountant, someone I can get excited with the accounts about, and someone else that speaks my language. But it's very valuable input for community, and it works very well on the committee. So thanks, Nina. So on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank the other committee members, thank the management team who put a lot of effort into producing the monthly accounts and the annual accounts, as I've mentioned, as well as the support of the board in our activities during the year.